Nearly 1 in 4 sport horses had insulin dysregulation, and according to this research, most would have been missed. Hi, I'm Dr. Rebecca Douglas. I spend a lot of time reading, interpreting, and summarizing the latest research in equine medicine so you don't have to. In this video, we're going to take a look at what these researchers found, and at the end, I want to give you 4 tips for prevention. When most people think about insulin dysregulation, they picture an overweight horse, or a horse with obvious signs of equine metabolic syndrome. But these researchers recently asked an interesting question and found different results. They asked, how common is insulin dysregulation in sport horses? To answer that question, researchers evaluated 180 sport horses of various breeds and various disciplines. And none of the horses had had a previous diagnosis of equine metabolic syndrome or even any symptoms like laminitis. The horses underwent an oral sugar test, and that's where insulin was measured before and after receiving a corn syrup solution by mouth. The researchers also compared a newer stall-side insulin test with a validated laboratory test to test that one. So what did they find? They found that 23% of the horses, or nearly 1 out of every 4, had some sort of insulin dysregulation. And here's what I find particularly interesting. Only 11 of the 41 horses diagnosed with insulin dysregulation had elevating fasting insulin levels. In other words, most of the affected horses were only identified after the oral sugar test. And most interestingly, the researchers also found that body condition score, cresty neck score, and other body measurements did not predict which horses had insulin dysregulation in this group of sport horses. So based on these findings, the authors concluded that insulin dysregulation is relatively common in sport horses, that dynamic testing is often necessary to identify the affected horses, and that physical appearance alone should not be used to predict insulin dysregulation. They also concluded that the stall-side insulin test showed good agreement with the laboratory tests. So what does this mean for your horse? To me, this is another reminder that prevention matters. In human medicine, we know that much of metabolic dysfunction is preventable and often reversible with the right nutrition and lifestyle. I think we should be asking the same questions in our horses. Instead of waiting until they develop laminitis or are diagnosed with insulin dysregulation, I want to give you 4 places I'd start today for prevention. Number 1, I'd feed for metabolic health from the get-go. Not just about calories, but I would focus on a forage-first diet and be mindful of any sugar or starch intake that's in your horse's diet. Number 2, I would keep horses moving and fit. So regular, purposeful movement and training help support healthy insulin regulation. Number 3, I'd be mindful of your horse's weight. Even though in this study it wasn't an indication of insulin dysregulation, fit is not fat and fat is not healthy. And a 4th one is a little bit about the overall metabolic picture of your horse. A healthy liver, kidney, digestive system, and lymphatic function all contribute to maintaining normal metabolic function. So be mindful of how much toxic load your horse is under as well.